Okay, so if I recall correctly, you said that you had a
Again,
hard
already, but
time
it's because
finding like exactly what to do better, right?
Yeah, it was just like when I was going over some of my casting, I just felt it difficult to know where I should be analyzing. I can kind of pick up that I use like at the moment I can pick up that I use too many words, like specific words I can pick up, but I can't really analyze anything else. I struggle to be able to read what I can improve on differently to that. Like
Okay.
I can't understand like speech, like elocution or inflection or something like that in returns to my voice, but in terms of actually being able to pick up like um how I could change like a sentence or structure something differently, I can't really do that at the moment.
Okay. What would you say if like a little bit of self analysis? What would you say your strengths are? What are your biggest strengths as a caster?
Um, I think being able to just give a fight some excitement, but it gets to the stage where I think I need to bring it down like 10%, and I kind of struggle to slow it down. I think it gets easier when I can expand my vocabulary because then I can say what I want to say in a shorter span of time, so I don't have to fill that with kind of nonsense words in a fight, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So like I feel like there's a strength there, but it's also something that is needs to be improved on.
Okay. So like what? So what are you setting out for your goal for improvement in that regard?
Mainly just to, I think, in like increasing the vocabulary where I can then not fill my sentences with words that aren't particularly necessary. I just feel like I don't have a vast vocabulary where a lot of the fights they just have too many basic words where it doesn't feel like it creates a scene, which I could do with less words, which would then kind of like mean I don't have to be talking. I can talk like 10% less, say, in a fight.
Okay. And we so this is something that didn't you DM'd me about
Mhm.
this.
Yeah.
You said that I've been trying to work out ways to create a better descriptive scene through fights. Was there anything you could do, share? And we talked about creative writing
Mhm.
and stuff like that, which is creative writing is usually my like I enjoy writing, and so I do a bit of writing every once in a while for that, but. Yes, I think having. Do you bring anything written down for when you cast it all?
For when I did the major, I had some intros and outros because that was one of my weaknesses where I didn't feel like I felt like it was very bland and very just one dimensional of how as I was introducing and exiting out into ads. So I tried to do that, but in regards to like fights, I started like a Google Doc of just words and some phrases that I like, but that's really about it.
Okay, okay, that's already like a really good start. I think that a lot of people get this idea that casting, like if you want to be a real caster, everything's off the cuff, you know, and like you're all the great things that you say, all the witty things that you come up with are all like purely created on the spot. And I think that is a little bit limiting when it comes to casting. I think that if it helps, it helps. So I like the fact that you write out your intros. That's something that like I started doing at the start of my career as well. Because I don't know about how you feel, but I feel like casting is very much what sometimes players talk about, like getting into a flow state, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like it's easier to get into the right kind of flow when I start off strong. So for me, intros are always really important, right? If I really nail an intro, I feel good about the rest of the cast from there on out.
Yeah, and like your intros have been something that I've definitely looked at because like when you were hosting ESL, because I remember messaging you in chat and asking like how many like if you just did hosting for ESL or if it was Dream League as well, because like that's when I was starting to look at how I could just kind of switch it up, like instead of just the basic coming in and come out. How like going into a particular series, do you do much like prior? Because you said you write a little bit down. Is there anything specific you do?
So usually one of the first go-tos is that so one of the best things is that as a caster on LAN events, you have a panel that covers the draft. So one thing that's really nice, that is quick and easy, is that Dota Buff will start up the series, and I'll click on the series between the two teams, and I'll scroll down to check out the previous series that have happened between these teams.
Okay.
So, because I always feel like history is like one of the best ways to build a story. So that's my usually like starting go to. So okay, if these teams are going back and forth, then maybe I come up with something different. But if there's something really obvious, like this team is beat, like I used the storyline for Liquid versus OG recently, because I counted up, I looked at it and I saw, wow, Liquid wins a lot of series against them. And then I kept going down and I was like, okay, they don't just win a lot of series, they win almost every single series. And I counted up all of the individual games, and I think it ended up being like 19-5. Like that kind of metric says something about the way these two teams match up, right? And I think that's a really good one. But if it's not that, then maybe it's something about the performance of a team so far in the tournament, or an individual player who stood out, and contrast that with somebody else on the opposing team. I think anything that builds personality to a team is good, because players don't typically give a whole lot of personality themselves, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's something I feel like in the draft as well. I've kind of struggled with being not in the draft, in the game, being able to continue with the story building of the game overall. I know that's kind of something side from what you're bringing up, but just to tie that into it.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's go ahead and actually, real quickly, what would you say your biggest weaknesses are as a caster, besides what you're talking about, just having more descriptive words to be able to use in a team fight?
Give me a sec. Let me think.
Sure. And I'll try and find.
Yeah, I think
it is. It's hard to say when.
One is building the story of a game. I think tying it back. I've recently been trying to ask a lot more questions to Denog, even if I feel like I know the answer. So I don't. I don't know if I should be doing that, like how I should be splitting that. So that's kind of, I don't like, that's like something I'm not sure on. So I'll say that as like a bit of a weakness. I feel confident in a lot of the fights. I think the early game fights can go a little bit better, just because I don't know, but something I've been really thinking about recently is that I think when I build my, like, it comes back to vocabulary. I feel like, in my opinion, that when I build my vocabulary, then I can have more descriptive words, and if people aren't listening to the same words over and over again, then they get a different perspective and it's not as boring. So that's kind of like the only thing I've really been focusing on. And unfortunately, I can't like come in and say like many other things that I've looked at like introspectively and being like that's a weakness that I really need to work on. There 100% would be, just something that I can't come up with.
I get you. No, that I wasn't expecting like a long list or anything like that. No, I think the self-analysis you've already done is really good in that regard. So I'm going to start the replay now. You can hear through Discord, right?
You saw what Galaxy saw so far through a lot of their games. They've been executing at such a high level.
Okay, I already like this. The fact that I don't even, I 100%, I don't even care about the context, but all I know is you just said that somebody, I don't know if it's player or team or who, has been executing at a really high level. So already as a viewer, I feel like you're setting the stage for me in some ways. So
those are the things that you've got wrapped around.
I already like that quite a lot.
I don't know why I kind of felt like doing it. Another thing, actually, I feel like my banter back and forth, like I think that's gonna become like get better over time when Denog and I get a lot more synergy. Like we've really just started with each other for maybe like 6 months now, but like I feel like it'll get better over time. But that's another weakness that I think is just more, again, familiarity with Danog instead of something I can specifically work on. I don't know if that, like, if there was something you did with Blitz or anyone else.
So, out of curiosity, are you? And Danog's not here, so feel free to be totally honest. Is this partnership with Danog? Is that an intentional thing, or is that something out of just convenience, right? Because I remember the online casting thing, and it's like honestly just finding casters sometimes, like anybody, it's like I had people on my list of co-casters that I didn't necessarily wasn't like really hyped to cast with them, but fuck it, they're already there. So how serious are you about making a duo with Danog?
Like pretty serious. Danog messaged me when Basekip stopped. He took a step back, and because Danog and him were doing together, and it's a lot convenient for us as well. I mean, we're both in Melbourne, so we're both doing a lot of, like, we did some of the oceanic stuff together where we're able to kind of build that momentum. And we've been out once together. We watched the upper division and had drinks. So yeah, it's something that we are trying to work on. It's not just something like you're forced to be casting with this person.
Okay. Okay, great. Then I would say already the fact that you guys went out together and watched some Dota together, I think that's a good start. If you guys can ever like play Dota together, so I feel like banter comes off of knowing each other well enough that you know the strengths and the flaws and the strengths and weaknesses of a person, that you can kind of tease them a bit about something. So playing Dota together is a great example of that, because you can always throw back to some game where you or Danog went 0-8-5 and the game was awful and shit like that. Of course Dota can ruin friendships, so you got to be careful with that. But I feel like playing Dota together, or if not that, playing other games together, I think if you're able to reference basically any sort of time that you have outside of the cast, of a funny moment or something you can kind of razz each other about, that's always a nice go-to.
Perfect. Yep.
Gotta add a little.
Are you a bit of a thing with, like, some people are sneakerheads with shoes? Are bracelets your thing? Like some people do watches.
No, I do have too many bracelets.
Bracelets and watches.
Well, like, two are for a charity.
For some reason, I had all my bracelets on the microphone while we were in the draft. It's been a couple long days, man. They're 8-hour days. I had 16-hour work days as well.
Like breast cancer.
They get fucking long.
Get like a pink
Yeah, I feel
bracelet.
you.
They just got like a
Kind
bunch
of like
of
the
different
Livestrong
ones.
bracelets,
Yeah.
those sort of things.
Mm-hmm. So I got two of them.
It starts to get pretty delirious to the end of the stream.
One from Amsterdam.
No, I mean I like it. It's
One from Misses, and then one.
People, there'll always be the people who complain like you're not focusing enough on the game. But Dota is a long form commentary, right? It's like you can't really focus on the game every. Oh, they're setting up for the bounty runes. There's only so much of that you can do.
For it.
So.
Mm-hmm. I do like Mr. Bracelets. I always like them. Got a bit too many. It's kind of fun.
I'm a bit basic. I'm not much of an accessories kind of person,
Yeah,
when I was younger, like I used to wear a watch, but you've got phones these days. It's basically like people keep saying, "Oh, in the future." Man, we are in the future. We've got supercomputers in our pockets,
So, out of curiosity, did you? I didn't hear anything. Did you reference the bounty rune split at all?
No, I not that I heard.
Okay.
So no.
I feel like one good way of being able to stop people from the standard complaint, why are they talking about anything other than the game? I feel like one good thing is you can kind of go through, like I have these bracelets and stuff like that, and we're gonna watch these teams. They split up the bounties. Nothing happens out of that. Like as long as you're basically able to recognize to the audience. Yep. Especially since it's basically a fucking if somebody isn't watching the screen, or they're just listening, or maybe they're not that close to their screen, they can't actually see who splits like what happens with the bounties. So as long as you make some sort of like side note about it,
sure.
If it's 2-2, if something actually interesting happens, I'm sure you would have said something. If somebody actually stole a bounty rune away, there's a 3-for-1. But otherwise for the common viewer, it's like there's just a flood of information. X person grab bounty, X person grab bounty, and it's like. you kind of have to do the deciphering for them
This
of
is
what team actually
a lane that they
ended
can
up
get very
with
aggressive in from Rogi and mid
what
one.
bounties.
Like their
but-
level 1 timings is a lot stronger than Radiant's. We do see Gush, their level 1 timing is pretty goddamn strong, but I think you'd rather it be a Blade Fury Stroke of Fate. And it seems like
Yeah.
Dire are going
Maybe
to...
if you had like a Snapfire as your position for, you know, then you could punish with the Gush. But Lion, not so much. Hell, even a Shadow Shaman, you know, all of that huge right-click damage that you can get.
So I always like, I feel like in many ways the laning phase is like watching 3 different games, right? There are some metas where like people are moving all over the place, but for the most part, for most metas, it's like you're watching 3 different games going on at the same time. You're on like, you know what it is? It's like any of those, I know you're Australian, but any of those like sports channels that do the split where they go from game to game to game. Maybe there's multiple, you know, rugby games or something going on at once, and they will do the split where they watch a little bit of this game and they go on to the next one. It's like you always have a commentator, a host who's kind of going through this and like talking about the highlights or whatever. So I like the fact that you broke down basically what this lane was and like the potential of it. Gush is really strong, but at the same time, there's this really good kill potential out of Inkswell plus spin. And I like to, I think the way I like to be able to digest this for the audience is setting the expectations. So I think you did a great job with this lane. And then what I'm hoping is that you'll just go lane by lane, right?
Okay.
That's a good way to include your analyst very early on, right? Is be like, okay, who's coming out on top of this? Because it one, puts your audience in a bit of a hot seat, right? In that they have to do not some broad prediction, who's going to win the game, but like, who's actually going to come out on top of this laning phase? And I think those predictions are good at being able to set the stage for what's actually going to happen, right? Whether he's wrong or he's right, like if he's wrong, then something unexpected happened, and that's something you could say. You can circle back to it, right? It's like this lane didn't go as well as we thought. Why was that? And I think that's always a good thing, as well as saying we. So you include yourself, unless you're trying to really, razz the other guy. I think saying we in that regard, like we were wrong about that, so you're accepting some of the responsibility, but then you can talk about why. Was there something unexpected that happened in the laning phase, or were you just like honestly wrong? And I think that's good to acknowledge to an audience as well. It's like, it actually turns out that this Gush is way stronger than we expected, or some bullshit like that. But like, you're always able to kind of round out to it, which gives a nice like beginning, like this is what we could expect, and then you give a conclusion to the laning phase as well.
Do you have like a template? Template probably not the right way to say it, but like a couple ways you find it easy to flow from one lane to the next in the lane, like with a question to ask someone. Does that make sense? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I would usually say that. So when I start my intro, I will usually expect my analyst to give a broad strokes of which team has which kind of timings, or if they like a certain draft better. And part of that is always going to be like, who needs to win the lanes, right? Who needs to win what lanes? Like sometimes a team needs to win 2 out of 3 of their lanes. They just got to run over the enemy team super early. Sometimes it's, like the mid matchup is going to be interesting. Sometimes there's like no kills possible, right? This top lane is going to be exciting. But maybe bottom lane is going to be a snooze fest, right? Because it's like a life stealer who's free farming or some shit like that. So I'm expecting my analyst to be able to in some ways talk about the win condition of either team, and so that'll help me narrow in. Okay, so if this team's going to be stronger late game, this other team, they need to actually win early, and that all starts from the laning phase, right? So, and I honestly, I think you could be pretty straightforward with it and just be like, okay, so who's winning each of these lanes? And you could literally just start like, okay, let's look at top lane, right? And then, he has his spiel or whatever. And then, okay, what's going on with this 1v1 mid? Who's going to win that one? Is there a favorite here? Is one player looking better than the other? And you literally just, very forcefully direct your analyst from lane to lane, which I think is, again, fine, because Dota laning phase is a very weird game to play, because it's again, it's like 3 individual games happening at once. So
do you feel like this lane is going to get to a stage where Galaxy Racer can actually end fire?
So I
feel
don't want to
it's
focus
just gonna
too
get a lot
much
easier for
on
Dial
one
as
lane
that
for
lane goes
too
on.
long at the very
I
start.
think so as well. You know, again,
Sometimes you get
the,
into it and it's
the
just
Grip
like
Stroke's one of those
something.
heroes that doesn't
There's
need
an
too much
interesting
to the form levels to
conversation
try and
or
get a lot
whatever,
done. He might be in a
but
bit of trouble
I
here,
like
as
to
he
be
gets
able to
tail off. Talk about not needing much. That level 2.
talk about
the
each
spin,
lane
also
very
stroke.
quickly.
I think the Blade of Fury is going to be enough. And, yeah, it is. You
Just
see-
so the audience,
It's
so
such an
you know
important
what,
thing. If you
what
get-
sometimes again with the like boring lanes, we're gonna be like, okay, that bottom lane, Lysile's gonna be free farming or whatever. This top lane is gonna be the battle lane, right? And so we're gonna be watching this lane most of the time, and that kind of explains to the audience, like, hey, you know, like here's what you can expect from these other lanes. You won't be seeing them, but don't worry, you aren't missing out on much, you know. I think setting their expectations for what you're going to be looking at for the laning phase, and both in outcomes and also where your attention's going to be focused on, is really good.
At level 2 before the enemy
So
team, you've got
you
a
guys have
big
this early
power
first
spike with an
blood,
extra
so you kind of
ability.
have to stay
You
here.
need to use that to your advantage, and that's exactly what SMG do here to pick up first blood.
Nice little recap.
All the lanes going quite well for
break
him as well.
down,
Even
you
mid,
know,
it's super early on.
what
but
happened.
he's taking a little bit of a lead.
Nice little
Even
first
Hart is
blood.
front.
That feels good. That
Nice
feels
and early,
like,
so he's been
okay,
able to get that water
we
result.
saw a
Same
nice
thing with
little
Lucky, though. I think
encapsulated bit of a story.
Actually, I'm not looking at the dies. Yeah, not too heavy into the denying. It's all about just securing their own last hits.
What lane? In your dream? Take a lot of damage here. Has
Good
to
catch.
sidestep out of the blood right, but it causes him to go further from that T1 tower. As long as he's got the help of Polo Sun, that's going to be the main thing here as top lane. Battle's continuing to break out. Mid one doesn't have the ward right next to him, so he's not going to be able to continue to use that Blade Fury aggressively.
And it's just the level 1 ward as well, and he doesn't have any regen. No, he's got the tangos coming up to him now. Gets salved up once by Rogi. This does seem like such a mid 1 lane though, right? He's like,
Yeah, so I haven't spoken
5
about the other
salves,
lanes yet.
please. Give me everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of fair
don't
because
even
you
know
had
if the please
kills
is there,
going on
no.
nonstop. But yes, I would definitely, in these sort of pauses, I would try. I actually find that your pace is a bit refreshing because it doesn't feel like you're like, oh God, I need to always be talking, you know, which I think is something that that's like a disease for commentators. Like, you know, we hate dead air.
That's one thing I've heard, like, dead air is actually like you got to learn to be comfortable with it, but I'm learning that like fine line of how comfortable I can get with it, so to say.
Yeah. So I think your comfort with the dead air is fine. I would say that the only reason I don't quite like it here is that I do feel like there's an objective going on. Again, like the laning phase, there's so many things happening that
Sure.
I kind of want to make sure that like I'm covering all my bases and saying like, okay, you know, like we see these heroes in mid lane, because that is another thing, is audibly being able to mention what heroes are where. Minimap has colors on it. People don't necessarily, some people don't even know what heroes are going to be mid lane versus off lane. You know, like some guy may look at this and be like, well, I've seen Snapfire mid and Void Spirit was a 4 sometimes. Like maybe they're expecting that, you know. So I think it's good to be able to touch on the matchups audibly and just be like, hey, this is the matchups happening mid and stuff. So I like the comfort you have with the silence, but I would say just like, again, now that we're kind of settling that there is an objective in the laning phase of being able to cover each of these, then I would, these little bit of breaks that I'm hearing, I would be personally trying to grab
Switch it
and
to
say
other
like,
lanes. Sure.
hey, let's briefly, what do you expect to see out of bottom? It's these two heroes against these two heroes. You don't necessarily always have to say what heroes are matched up against each other. That was something, say, like AC had a formula for. You know, he would literally go lane by lane and be like, and in the top lane, we've got, you know, XYZ on his signature, Mars matched up with, you know, like, and he would do that. He would do an introduction for each one of the players.
Yep.
You don't necessarily need a formula like that, but
Sure.
it is
Expected
good.
at this stage.
Yeah, that was literally what I was going to ask next, actually.
guess
I was
if
going to
he's
revert
got
back,
carry
like,
them to
should
victory,
I,
then-
before game, actually
He's gonna need to do better
recap,
than
like,
last
who's
game,
playing
but
who?
1-8,
Like, go
think
from
that's
all the
too good.
heroes on each team and just say the players' names? That's what I was actually just going to bring up.
If you like to do that, I think you should I think you should always do that in the first 10 minutes of the game, whether informally or formally, right? So you could do the AC approach and be like, you know, the start of the greetings, salutations, let's go through all the lanes. And you go line by line who's playing what. There is something nice about that because, for example, AC was always able to highlight, hey, this person's on this hero. He's really good on this hero. That was always a really good way to set the stage. But it does get a little formulaic in that regard. So if you're not that kind of person, then I would just keep in mind that you probably want to connect a person's name and the hero they're playing sometime in the first 10 minutes, you know, or rather 7 minutes, I guess, whenever the laning phase starts breaking down, which varies. But
it was a bit of a rough performance from him. But he has been very, very solid in all the games we've seen so far from SMG.
Nice. I like that. I like that a lot. You gave me a story bit.
Just trying to see.
As well, we saw him
That
go for the
guy's
bottle
been
last
doing
game,
really well
and
for SMG.
He's going into a similar sort of build this time on the Tidehunter. I'm not feeling quite as strong about it this game, just because previously, you know, you had a Laprica play with.
So I have no idea because I've only heard this twice now. But I really like that bit of story. I would love if I'm able to get a different kind of story every once in a while. So I don't know if you ever feel comfortable about doing this, but you know, like this guy's been doing really well. This guy's been owning for the team. I would love to hear a last game he undersold himself. Like he did not play very well. And he needs to, and that sets up a redemption story. He needs to be able to show, you know, a better performance this game.
Yeah, I would do that a couple times, but it's probably not something I would put as much consideration on from saying like someone who's played well.
Yeah, it's always nice because the thing about that is that since we don't have as much background sometimes as like sports casters do, it very often comes down to this guy's been playing well, this guy's been playing well, and we kind of repeat that mantra about certain people all the time. This is where, again, it's going to be harder when you have to cover the draft, but if you have any stats that you can pull up of just somebody's Dota buff esports profile, and like, you know, if this is their most played hero, working that in to these kind of introductions or touching on this kind of thing, I think it's really nice as well.
Very capable
but
of carrying
again,
the ball,
hard to do for online casting.
I don't even know what the right term is. I'm not overexpending your resources, but Sol Ring could have been just as good. Gives you that little bit of extra strength for the laning stage.
Is he
also thinking about what's he going to go into later?
Who's doing camera?
Is he not in boots for this lane as well?
I am.
Like I feel like Bottle will help. Yes, with your sustain.
Between gank attempts, yeah.
Yeah, but like, I feel.
So
like
yeah,
you're
I'm
just
not going to
chased
go
on
back
lots
on
of,
it,
what is it
but
going to
we're
do versus
spending a lot of
Blade
time in this
Fury
top lane,
versus,
which is
2
totally
points
fine
in.
as
I don't
long
know,
as you explain to the audience
I want to see how
why.
that plays for Mizu's bot lane.
Sure. Okay.
See SMG can
But
very
you know,
deep
casting
into
and doing camera work
attempt
is
to try and bring down in
always
your dream, but
it's
he's
never
going
going
to
to
pick
be
up his first
perfect.
kill of the game here on the Luna.
They're going to focus too much on showing
but SMG
everything,
just
and
clearing out
then
a
your
few of those
commentary is
creeps.
going to
They
suffer,
missed a
or
bunch,
your
but
commentary is going to be
I mean,
good,
he
but
can
then
afford
you
it.
know you're
Obviously,
naturally
a lot of
going to
what he
be
has, he's just gonna
slower
be able to stare the second range creep.
and
Oh,
making
no,
sure
never mind, he's just
everything's looked
AFK
at.
for no reason. Not hitting
Yeah, I
last
feel
range
like
in lane.
I didn't like you said, I didn't transition to other lanes, and then when Danog just kept talking about top, like I feel like I have to have the camera showing there. So that's on me to, on that dead air, move it to the other lane.
Yeah. Or like, you know,
feels-
analysts are naturally, you know, they're just going to talk about what they want to talk about, right? Because that is their job is to sound smart and be smart. And sometimes there are things that you just feel more comfortable being smart about. So, you know, you're gonna focus more on those things naturally. So sometimes you have to actually pull your analyst, you know, out of that situation and just be like, all right, so tell me about the mid matchup, you know. You could even say, I work in real quickly all the time to let them know, like, hey, we'll go back to your lane. Don't worry. We'll keep talking about the action at top, but
if Fury just expires,
you know,
and they use that ink
give
swell
me
really
10
late, so they're not reading,
seconds of
have their
who's
abilities
gonna
up to
win
battle,
mid,
knowing that
who's
Dyer's are
gonna
on
win
cooldown,
bottom.
and they're going to look to punish, as Roji will get caught out. Simultaneously across the map, we're going to see In Your Dream falling to Arfu, who's also even looking for another cute kill on Polo.
I like that.
Good thing about
I
that
always
muscle,
like.
but you
I
can
always
see how
appreciate
low
when
all the heroes
casters
are
can
against the
transition their play-by-play to
Luna
covering,
actually
even if it's not on
outdoing
camera and it's not like traditional play-by-play, but working
cute
what
attempt
is
there.
play-by-play into a
Catch up onto KP,
recap
but,
of
you know, during
what
that
was
team fight,
missed
even now,
off
he was moving
screen.
at 550 movement speed
So
with the
I
phase
like that you
protector.
did that. That was very smooth.
You can get a whole lot done as this Bloodseeker super early on.
And does now free up Nia for a wave mid at least. Both are getting really good CS, 45 and 2 compared to the 40 and 4 from either team's position 2s, and they're actually going to look to make a play
Nice,
here.
nice. We
So
talked
lane
about
is
the mid
shoved out.
lane.
SMG are
You
gonna have
attached
about
his name
6-7
to the hero.
seconds until that mid lane's going to collapse, and this might give it away then. So they're going to have to be pretty quick on where they try and move to.
It would have to be the top side. No Ravage yet, no mana, although the bottle is just about to...
Let's get past, see if this...
Yeah, he TP'd away from the rupture, but his TP back to the T1 tower was in such close proximity that he still took damage from it. So KP chases him down, and Polo gets killed too.
Things going well for SMG.
Are you
Trying to
able
avoid betters in
to
shambles.
focus on but just keep in mind if I am a little bit too much monotone? Like I've signed up to I'm starting to do like voice communication stuff. But I haven't done any lessons yet, and I'll get a lot out of that, but I'm right now unsure. I feel like I'm not always monotone, but I'm not 100% certain, and I'd like someone else's, just like if you are able to let me know like later on if it's just a thought back in your mind or something like.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm gonna skip ahead pretty soon here to start going to some like mid-game team fights.
No way he survives. Oh, international step. So they'll lose Nia, they're going to lose Rogi as well. Great plays from Yokam and Co. See that control
I like that bit of
really
emotion.
coming into play here.
You know, you were feeling for the player,
from both sides, to be honest,
and like him almost
Galaxy
making
Racer's
out or
favorite.
whatever that was,
So
right?
pushing
Like
into the
I
tower
like
as well.
the fact that
Gives
you
space to mid one,
attach
I
some
suppose, and he's done
emotion
the same up
to
towards the
a
top
death.
side, so
I think that's always nice.
rotation here through from Yokam, making sure that none of that valuable experience is lost. He's getting so close to his level 6 as well, but you can see he's kind of like, oh, can I get this creep and then still stack? And he's just decides, you know what?
Okay.
Why shouldn't I?
So
Why shouldn't I get
that's been the
level
laning
6?
phase. This is where the game starts getting a little bit messier, and it's breaking down, and also at the same time becomes more unified. So you know, we're no longer having 3 different games happening at once.
They know the Blade Fury's on cooldown for a couple extra seconds. Mid one needs help, and he needs it now, but can he get back to safe?
Okay, so I'm already noticing
well,
something. We'll see. Here, I'll try and make sure we get the lead up to it, because I think the lead up. I think a lot of play-by-play commentators focus on this is the moment. Toby was notorious for doing that, right? Because that's what he was really good at. The moment of team fight, the moment of play-by-play. But somebody like LD, what he always did really well was build the suspense happening into a team fight. So
A few of these big
and I think that
Galaxy
is
Racer and hopefully find a
equally
way to live.
important.
Wouldn't surprise me to see him go like a super early
Not
KP or
actually
something after this.
less important, because I feel like a lot
So
of
it just feels like
play-by-plays
KP wants to be
feel
up in the
like
face and kind
the
of just taking
moment
up
of
abilities.
you know the team
that's right.
fight
I mean,
is
you've
beginning,
seen
and
Neo
now
a couple times
the
now,
real
he's
job that
caught
I
out
want to do
with,
is this
not
play-by-play. Like
amazing
this is where the
survivability.
real fun starts, you know.
Ravage onto the Tide Hunter. He's going to get up onto the high ground, the enemy side. At least.
Blackberry. That jump
It's
is
an onto two.
really far away from the Tide. It's going to cost them here.
Big
Misexecution
deal.
paying drastic here in this team fight. They switch up the Ravage along with Eclipse, double Earth Spike Radiant. They're going to look to turn around, but now mid one showing up, so Galaxy Racer, they're going to get back to safety.
Okay, so I already heard a couple things that I liked, and then one thing that did kind of take with me, mix execution. I think he said miss execution is going to cost them or something. It was like it was a decent phrase, but it didn't feel like supernatural. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It did feel like I don't know if this is the vocabulary thing, but it was nice. It just didn't come off supernatural. I actually love the voice crack that just happened. I think voice cracks, it's like you grow up as a guy, you're a teenager, your voice cracks, but all the other guys make fun of you. Your voice went high. But I think voice cracks are a really good show of like genuine emotion. Like nobody intentionally does a voice crack. So the fact that you had like a real emotion to
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you've seen
the
Neo a
Ravager,
couple of times now. He's
I don't
been
remember
caught
what it
out
was.
with not amazing survivability. the Ravage onto the Tidehunter. He's going to get up onto the.
So we didn't have any lead up, but that's because Danog was talking.
Jumping really
Fucking
far away from
analysts
the Tide,
always
it's gonna
ruining
cost them
the.
Misexecution paying drastic here in this team fight. They took up the Ravage along with Eclipse, double Earth Spike Radiant. They're going to look to turn it around, but now mid one's showing up, so Galaxy Racing, they're going to get back to safety. That's all without the Juggernaut, and they find 3 here, and now they can move that into the tier 1. A big misplay from Radiant. You need that Tide to protect the abilities, but the fact that he was still ruptured meant that he couldn't get in the middle, dropping the Ravage to stop the damage and the attacks on the Supernova.
Yeah. Bit of a misplay coming through there, and even just a little bit of luck as well. The last little tentacle of the Ravage wasn't able to connect in onto the Mortimer's Kisses.
Okay,
So was able
sounds
to
good. I like the recap
3 for
that
1
you
trade
did.
there. More importantly, no ultimates available. Even, I believe, was the Eclipse used in the team fight? Or was that like a farming Eclipse?
I have a tendency to go too far with my recaps.
Remnant.
I work too much
Okay,
of
so
a
the TP
recap into my
Remnant, they're coming down,
play-by-play, and I
but
can
too
see
late, and
that
they
a
have
little bit in you
ultimates
as
as
well.
well.
But
look for
I
a
think it was
turn.
really nice still.
They can just stay here.
I think one of the things you
You've
just
got everyone
you
here.
don't want to take up too
Keep
much
all of those
space
TPs
from
available,
the analyst
healing
doing
one
the
available, all
recapping as
ultimates
well.
ready,
But
except for the Mortimer's Kisses by the time the team fight breaks out. The Soulbind will be available as well.
Mizu,
Come on, they're keen to fight.
good popped. Alacrity once again, a great coil silence. Earthspike from Yoken. It's on multiple heroes, but the damage is non-existent at the moment without the ultimates and without a farmed Luna. They're going to try and dive deep under the tower. Look at the Maelstrom Inkspell stun
nice.
combo. That's beautiful. Again, it's on 3 from the Lion, but it will not matter. We're seeing some incredible stuns, but it's SMG that are looking to run over this early game.
That's a couple of team fight misplays coming through from Pulse, and he's leveled up the Sunray, who has had it at max, and everything was committed there onto Mizu, right on the stairs. So you've got this tiny little choke point that you're able to get a great Sunray off, not only healing him up, but also damaging 3 or 4 of the enemy team. And he just stayed back. I think he even walked into the Blood right there.
okay.
Silence you for a few seconds and mean that you're going to have very little team fight effect.
Yeah, there's something I keep on noticing, which is that hey, how long ago was this game? Was this today?
I think this is today actually.
Okay, so I feel like I can almost tell, and I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But I feel like I can almost tell that you're trying to work on your vocabulary.
I am a lot.
Okay.
I've been reading books, and like my note list is like full, like really fucking full, and I've only like I even put words in that like I have a 50% understanding with, but I don't have the greatest understanding on how I could twist it into a cast, so I still have them down. But I feel like I have like brain fog, and I get that a lot in casts, and and it really messes up with my flow of words, and like that seems to impact like how the awkwardness of, like, you know how you said before, that awkwardness in the mid fight of the execution, like how it just didn't seem to flow.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I'm looking for a word and I know it, but I can't reach it, and then I try and switch to something else, and that's where I like maybe feel like that flow and awkwardness comes into play, because I've for some reason I'm just getting a shitload of brain fog and I don't know why.
No, I totally get that. I imagine that like Owen, you know, you're talking about brain fog. I imagine like Owen just has this like insanely like 4K clarity that's always going on because he's so fast and witty. But the brain fog is totally natural. But there was that moment where you were talking about the Earth Spike stun, and like the Earth Spike stun, and I could tell what you were trying to go for, which was like he hits this nice stun, but there's nothing behind it, right? And I felt like you were focusing too much on the vocabulary when, which, you know, is pretty natural. Whenever you notice something about your casting that you'd like to be improved, you overly focus on that. But I would love to see you like just not worry so much about the vocabulary, because what I kind of wanted you to hear, what I wanted to hear out of you in that situation was just like, hey, it's the stun, but there's nothing there, right?
Sure.
It's super simple. It doesn't really need a whole lot of flashy vocabulary. However you say that is up to you, but like I could feel that you were trying to put that across, but it was muddled up with too many words that you were trying to fit in and that sort of thing. And I think, personally, that right now play-by-play is trending. I think it's the Owen effect, basically. I am susceptible to it as well. right, is that Owen came in and he does this, brilliant, super fast commentating that he does and play-by-play, and it sounds really cool. Owen can pull it off, but I feel like that was something that I did. I was like, oh, I'm going to try and like speed up a little bit. It's a nice tool to use, but I feel like a lot of play-by-play is overly focusing on the speed, whereas like LD was a legendary commentator, and he did not move fast at all. Same goes with Toby in some ways. That he made big moments big. He made big sentences, and they weren't very verbose. There was a small number of words, but Toby always took the moment of saying, there's nothing there, right? That's 3 words emphasized over the course of 2-3 seconds, right? And he puts a lot of emphasis on it. And that is actually, I feel like it's almost better commentary than, filling up just like a whole bunch of words into a small space to like, do the auctioneer, like, look at all this stuff that's happening and I'm calling all of it. I want to hear like the big moment out of you.
Yeah.
So,
Supernova, not using the sun ray.
I would love to
And-
see you actually, even though I know you think it's something you want to do more. I want to see less words out of you. I want to see you put some a big fucking in bold print. I want to see what is happening in this fight. They're getting dunked on, like there's nothing behind this stun. Like they're not doing anything. Like I want to hear a little bit of that contrasted with the natural flow that you already good at.
Okay. Yeah, because that is one thing that I feel like I don't have like my own style. And I feel like that's, like you said, with Owen, like everyone's kind of naturally gone into this fast pace, and I've definitely recognized that, and I feel like it's just something over time that I have to build the style. But like in my head I've tried to slow down like 10%, but it just seems like I need to consciously do it, which is the issue. And I don't want to consciously be thinking about something because I know it then takes away, like I'm not 100% into the cast then. Does that like, it's so when you're consciously trying to improve on something, of course, like it's,
it's definitely something that like needs to, you can't be like consciously thinking about it, just kind of has to worm its way into your subconscious. So that would be just something that I'd be kind of thinking about every once in a while. It's something I'm trying to do for myself, because I listen back to Mineski versus Secret, right? Epic series. But my commentary was not as good as it was for EG versus eHome. And I remember because that series, that I was experiencing the brain fog you were talking about. I was out of breath for like 80% of the game, it felt like. My heart was pounding constantly. I just felt like I couldn't quite get it together for that series. And I had some good moments, but I was just yesterday going back through that replay because I thought I was going to be talking about it for something. And I was like, man, there was just so many moments in there that I feel like the commentary wasn't impactful. And it was just because I was vomiting out words, basically.
Sure.
W is after the Soulbind, gives mid one some space to be able to get the healing ward along with the Blade Fury, and they turn. It brings down Yokem. Mizu's still in the back line. Ravage is available here. They need to get rid of the healing ward, and they'll do just that. Now with the Ravage going to get popped, they know the Blade Fury's on cooldown for a couple
see,
extra
like
seconds.
that moment right there, right? That actually felt very nice, right? You're going pretty fast. They need to deal with the healing ward, and they do just that. Like that felt really good to me. It was a nice bit of contrast. It was a nice little peak in the action. Even though it's something small, you recognize it as something important, and you put the emphasis on it, and that felt really nice.
Yeah, and that's something I've been like.
Inkswell gives him the movement speed.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say that's like something where I've been trying to work on, like the monotone, like going up and then going down, and like kind of having like a short stop and then continuing in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Gonna try and drop the Eclipse the Koi once again on multiple heroes from Alacrity. They're gonna go back in on mid one. It's a Blade Fury. Damage gonna be enough to be able to turn at mid one. It's just taking up the right click, Blink on 4. They even drop the Supernova. But nonetheless, Galaxy Racer take a great team fight.
Okay, that was good. Your analyst called something out. You followed that action. The even using the Supernova that felt good to me. I would have loved for you to put like a little bit more emphasis on just like, holy crap, like they really want this guy dead, you know? Like I would love to see some sort of capper there or something like that. But I think that was great. You called a bit of a chaotic team fight. You followed your analyst. You did a nice recap for it as well. Team fight.
They're realizing that, look, just as much as we're reliant on our team fight ultimates, if there's no Soulbind, if there's no Omni Slash, then you're kind of vulnerable yourselves. Eclipse not even getting the most done, but throughout all these team fights, Alacrity.
I think you're doing a good job
the other
with
day. This time around, multi-man dream calls every single time.
The monotone that you're talking
Great
about.
Hex stops the Remnant. They still get the Rupture out.
Unlike like the vocabulary thing, I felt like it was a little unnatural. This I feel like is a bit more natural. I can tell you're trying to feel a little bit more up down, but it feels
ground like a Luna's supposed to do, and there's no extra follow-up. But great silence on top of the backline prevents the Grimstroke Void Spirit from being able to counter-initiate here. Now the Omnislash dropped as well, but Mizu's taking up all the damage. The Hood's gonna get popped. Where's the control coming through?
Okay, so here's another moment where like trying to fit as many words in as possible. If you're able to do it fast enough, then you're keeping up with the action, and that's fine. But I like identifying something that's really impactful, right? So Galaxy Racers, they win the start of this fight. Luna stands there just as she wants to do or whatever. Like that was a nice bit. They kill the Bloodseeker. I want to hear Bloodseeker's dead, right? And this bit of action, I would much rather hear the focus of like, here comes the potential turnaround, right? And here comes Juggernaut, right? And like that, you know, it raises the question, like, is this going to turn the team fight? Like the Galaxy Racers are winning, but here comes reinforcements, here comes the carry, here comes, you know, like I want to hear like more emphasis, because you're going so fast. It doesn't feel like there's emphasis on this new factor that's coming in. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you prioritize what you want to talk about? Are you getting that from say you ask your co-caster and he says there's a priority on getting a support? Are you then like, is there a list you go down that you want to focus on? Like mental list, of course, you're not really thinking of it like in the game, I suppose, but like you're going to prioritize on say the position ones, the ultimates, say if there's a big support factor that you need to bring down. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah, certainly. I think that's just going to be your own read of the game, and what you think is important, and that can be like maybe you'll end up being wrong, but it's much better for you to be wrong and be open about stating what you think is important and what you think is a big deal. Like Toby was wrong all the time when like co-casting with him about like what he thought the big moment was. Right? And I'm sitting there going like, well, that wasn't the big moment. The big moment was over here. But it doesn't matter because he's translating the game that the way he wanted to, right? And so for him, he thought the black hole, even though the team fight was over, the black hole that happened on two people was a big deal. But I thought, something else that happened was the big deal. But it doesn't matter as long as whatever you think is the right thing and you're calling that action the way you think. And so, like sometimes it's Oracle, right? If Oracle's in the game, they're going to be hunting down that hero. Can they find the Oracle? It's this big game. But it doesn't necessarily matter whether or not you're right about what's most important in the team fight, as long as you're setting the stage for the audience.
Sure. Yeah.
Carries naturally are going to get a lot of highlight, cores in general, right? It's like the big initiation. There's the big initiation. Here's the damage dealing hero doing his damage and stuff. I would just say in this example, right, it's like the Juggernaut is a game changer. And I want to know that. I don't necessarily need to know every bit that's happening in the fight. I need to know that like something has changed. Will this change actually make a difference?
Where's the damage? Mid one. That's provided thanks to Blade Fury. Once again, Yocam, a double Earth Spike. They'll get the kill. Where's the extra follow-up though? Blackleak jaunts up to the northern side. Remnant just shy. I
TP.
I have been like so impressed from Yokam in almost every game that we've seen. You know, he's been a bit MIA from the scene, but coming back and he's just this Lion performance is incredible.
Nice.
Seems like
Highlighting his
time we see him,
performance.
you know, and
I want to hear you.
Galaxy Racer, that's for sure.
I want to hear you reference that at the start of the
in the middle of
fight.
that
Now.
fight.
You know, I want to hear if you
just
think
saw
this
that fight
guy's
could have probably
playing
even
really
gone
well.
better
I
for
want to
Gal-
hear is Yoakum going to be able to do it again, or you know,
Okay.
like can he? I want to feel like you've been building up this story. Yoakum's been owning, and the next fight, I want to see like, all right, eyes on this guy again. Maybe he's just gonna like literally get jumped on and die. But that's still a story, right? You built up a story that this guy's owning, and if he's like a team fight's about to go down and the teams smoke into each other, and Yoakum like literally he doesn't cast a single spell, he just gets jumped on, stunned, and died. Like, well, that's Dota, you know. But like then it's like, oh, Yoakum dies, you know, the playmaker's gone, you know, and that's a story in and of itself. But like, you know, you're highlighting this guy, and I want to like. I want to continue following this thread of the story because I think you're doing it nicely.
He finally had a good position to use the Sunray again around one of these choke points. He was on the high ground, no vision of him channeling it up.
Dan,
So
I'm
it's not
talking
easy to
about
get him into
analysis
the background,
stuff.
use the Yule Scepter
Blah,
to be able
blah,
to disrupt
blah,
it. And, there was those cheeky little Vools that were actually hitting the Luna, so he wasn't regenning as much as he should have, which is unfortunate. But Galaxy Racer, they still end up winning the team fight.
What do you feel like the priority needs to be here for SMG when they take fights? Like, which hero do they have to bring down first? Is, well, Mizu?
Okay,
Not Mizu.
so there was that bit of a break, and I could feel you were trying to like, okay, what's the next like narrative to focus on? I think you ended it in a good point. I don't even know. Did Galaxy Racers did win that last fight, right? So, you know, I would love for you to be able to reference that fight in some way, but I feel like this is the right direction, which is like, what do SMG need to
That's
do?
for sure. I mean, could
I
Essence
forgot
Ring?
already what we were.
He's
what
got the
question
backup of the
was, but it was
Sunray
like
as well,
it was a good
2100
directory
was-
question.
You're just not killing it.
It was who do they need to prioritize to kill?
So he's just going to show up in lane.
Right.
try
Okay.
and act a little-
That's always a good question because you can highlight that when you feel like a team fight's about to happen, like the smoke that is just happening. Okay, he said this is a hero to focus on. Let's see if that happens.
bit of the bait and say, well, you seem to be obsessed with running at me, so I'm just going to put myself out here. He's even got the Essence Ring as well for that little bit of extra added survivability. And the Holy Locket actually already finished up from Paulison, so he's doing a crap ton of healing.
Looks like they're...
Oh, first.
Are they just
Yeah,
trying
I
to
think
set
I
up
think you
for-
could bully Danog a little bit in that situation. You know, if you see a smoke, I want, unless you know, like nothing. This is just a general like blind smoke where they're moving to the wrong side of the map. I want to have some anticipation of like what could happen with this smoke. Maybe nothing does, but like I think you could bully Danog out a little bit there. And you know,
Sure.
shut the hell up with your analysis. Like, I want to know. You said this is important. They're smoking up. They're prepping for a fight. Like, let's see if what you said ends up coming true in any way.
Roche? Because if they win a fight, they can take it on
Do
radio.
you want
I
me to
don't think
do
they can
that
walk
in
now,
regards
but you see
to,
how they're looking to
like,
dewatch
say
it, they're
they
able to
moved
control
up that
side.
high ground mid? Do you want me to say they're looking for a pick
Definitely with that,
around
with that
the
solid
deep
presence,
mid
they're
lane,
supposed
or
to be
just
picked
like
up with the
speaking,
dodge.
like trying to bring up where they're looking for a pick off here with that smoke? Is
Yeah,
that what
sure.
in regards?
Yeah,
Okay.
that sounds like a great way to do it. You know, if he says picking off this hero on SMG is important, then you can take some liberties and say, okay, the team's going to smoke up and they're going to look to do just that, right? They're going to look to get whatever guy. You know, you make it seem like your analyst and the thing that they just said is exactly what exactly what the team is doing right now. You know, they're on the same wavelength as Danog, and they're looking to do exactly what he just said. It makes him look good. It makes the story feel nice. You know, it feels all very connected in that regard.
Ton of damage. Very easy for them to go ahead and do Roche if they win a team fight, though. You know, they're still very cooldown reliant, so any kind of engagement kind of feels like it has to be an all-in situation for Galaxy Racer. So you can see a lot of cores in this position might be TPing around the map, trying to get a lot done in your dream, taking advantage of Luna's good base movement speed. He's walking around the map, Even just using the Mask of Bandits between camps to get there faster.
Mizu needs to take up the Remnant, and he will. Apollo out of the blood right. That's so much damage. Okay.
With the kisses, it's a...
Yeah, you can definitely disrespect Danog a little bit more, because I'm watching you and you're on camera. You're seeing this stuff. You're seeing what like could be happening. You know,
Yep.
feel free to kind of, because you know Danog's a nice guy. If you start saying a bit of something, he knows that he'll create space for you. I'm not even sure if Danog noticed necessarily that this pickoff was about to happen, but you could definitely call it out, because this sort of situation, you have no idea, right? It could just be a game-winning team fight for them, or it could just be the Phoenix pickoff. You know, it's you don't really necessarily know how it's going to break down, so better to err on the side of caution. Yeah,
It's enough.
Yeah.
You're being
my
too
lord,
nice to
Mizu
Danog.
Evaporated.
Can they do Roche is the question. You got 30 seconds. Okay, he's got the Blink Dagger though. Could we see another big play come through from this Lion?
They only got 1 point Lil Shredder.
All right, he's setting up. Can they do Roshan or
Granted
not?
by the,
Always good question.
The Spirits. It's going to slow down the attack
Creates
speed
a
coming
little
through
bit
from this one,
of
even as he's
tension.
buffed up by that medallion.
Don't think Dai can do this. Tide's up in 10.
Nope.
They use kisses. Healing ward's on cooldown as well. You see, they're all trying to get in the pit.
I
Even
like
KP
this.
helping hand with those
You
right
you made a
clicks.
call, right?
Closer and closer to the Tide's
Again,
about.
doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. The fact that you really felt like they can't do this, and you make that call, you know, maybe you end up looking stupid, and you know they not only take the Roshan, they win the fight, but you know, that's still a story. The fact that you set up and you firmly believe, I don't think they can do this. You know, the audience feels a little like a little precarious about the whole situation. They're like, oh shit, things are about to go bad, you know, and like it builds up
This
some
might
sort of
be the time for
anticipation.
Radiant to slowly push
If the
them
fight
away.
happens,
He comes live
then
with
the
a TP,
anticipation turns into something that's a reality. If they back away, then you were right. You know,
go,
said
Roche
they
about a
can't
third
do
HP
this,
now, and they're unable
yeah,
to take.
that's exactly what they're
Yeah.
gonna back off. They realize this was a mistake.
Even just that improved Manta start. Are they going to be able to catch out in your dream as he's farming in this mid lane? No, they're caught on the other side. Healing was back available. This is such a big team fight for the context of the game.
Lion, caught, coil, rabbit, dropped as well.
Oh, man.
Eclipse, supernova, all the ultimates getting used here, but they've only.
Okay, I want to go over that list of words there for a second, because
Yeah, I didn't like that.
you didn't like that. Okay, what didn't you like about that?
I felt like I didn't have to list all of the ultis at
Okay.
once. Okay. I felt like it could have come out a little bit differently when I was going through the tail end of that fight. I'm like, I feel like I could have done that a bit better. I don't know what, but I feel like I couldn't. I haven't listened to it back since.
Okay.
Go, Roche about a third HP now, and they're unable to take it.
Even just that improved Manta start. Are they going to be able to catch out in your dream as he's farming in this mid lane? No, they're caught on the other side. Healing was back available. This is such a big team fight for the context of the game.
Lion,
Okay, so Void Spirit jumps in, run over your co-caster. Just fucking railroad him out of here.
The fuck out of the way, Dana.
Yeah. He's still finishing up his analysis, and believe me, whenever I have to co-cast, I have a hard time with this. You feel free to jump in, because I don't think he's gonna mind at all. You just kind of like exclaim all of a sudden, like, oh, Void jumped in, you know, like, oh, he got something, just anything that says like, oh, the fight started, right? Whereas if you let him finish, what it feels like is that we're a step behind, you know, like the action has already begun. So feel free to do those kind of exclamatory, like, oh shit, something's going on. It's all going to hell now. You know, like those kind of moments.
I feel like that's, I don't want to say something I've deliberately been doing, like consciously been letting Denog try and build that storyline up to the fights. I feel like I am not confident through at least the Pro Series so far. Have been trying to see how it goes with him building up these fights a little bit more. Like I feel like I know I should do it half the time, but I feel like there's a nice in between where we can both do it, if that makes sense. But I feel like I also that's where I just don't feel comfortable with 100% being able to build it up, like knowing I think that just comes with time because like there's no
Sure.
real specifics you can say, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Danog he's kind of setting it up, right? I think
Yeah.
I wasn't really listening to him,
Yeah,
but
he's-
Roche about a third HP now, and they're unable to take it.
Even just that improved Manta style, are they going to be able to catch out in your dream as he's farming in this mid lane? No
Okay, he
control on
puts
the other
attention to
side.
something.
He wants back available. This is such a big team fight for the context of the game.
Lion.
okay, he this is such a big team fight in the context of the game, right? He's a little bit late on this. It's like not necessarily his fault. It's just the fight happens anyway, right? So he's trying to set up the foreshadowing. This is such a big team fight. Like, of course, if he says this 5 seconds earlier, it sounds really sick, but Dota's Dota and it's all chaos and you don't know exactly when they're going to jump or when they're not. So it's unfortunate that he is trying to set up for your play-by-play for the start of this team fight, but he's late. And, that's not his fault. It's just Dota. So, but if something does happen, if you can let your co-caster set up, but if they don't finish it up in time, then
Just
you
gotta
want to
get
get
in.
that peak of like, something happened. It's going on. You want to be able to jump in there if they're not able to finish it up in time. Of course, in the ideal situation, he's able to set up. This is going to be such a huge team fight coming up for the context of the game. This is how it all breaks down, and he does this bit of cliffhanger. They're just jumping in and you're able to get it and the void's in, and it all would be perfect. But, sadly Dota's messy. So feel free to just like cut them off and jump,
Yep.
right? Because I end up feeling like we're behind.
Coil.
Okay.
Rabbit, dropped as well.
But, what you do really nicely.
I think
Roche about a third
if-
HP now, and they're unable
if
to
you
take
press like the arrow key, it might go back like 5 seconds. Just
Oh, okay.
like it might be
Yeah.
easier for you.
Good call.
I'm not 100%
Just that
certain,
improved
but
Manta
just
style, are
we'll
they gonna
try.
be able to
The,
catch out in your dream as he's farming in this
so
mid
you're
lane?
you're
No, they
behind
on the
at the
other
start of the
side.
team
He
fight,
wants
right?
back available. This is
But
such
what
a
I
big team
like
fight
is the
for the context of the
simplicity.
game.
Lion. Coil. Rabbit, dropped as well.
Poor man.
Eclipse.
I see what you mean. I'm behind and I catch up with just
Yes.
saying,
That's
okay,
exactly
I
it.
see what, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You've caught up on the team fight by making it simple, right? And just being able to say, spell names, especially since it's a nice 3 is always like a nice magic number, right? 1, 2, 3, right? That always feels good for whatever reason. The fact that you keep it really simple is what I love the most about this fight. That's what made me stop,
Okay.
because you literally just cut out everything that's extraneous and literally just say the spells that are important, and you do it in a nice cadence, right? So I love that fact, because it felt like I was like, oh no, this team fight's starting off like a bit rough. But then by doing this, you make a nice, instead of having that like, oh, somebody jumped in, instead it's caught, coil, ravage, or
Yep.
I think that's the 3 that you used or whatever.
And
And
that's-
that feels good to start the team fight. Go ahead.
And that's like when I messaged you about not being able to like have a like kind of a criteria list of when I go back on replays and look over, like that's something I wouldn't have picked up. And it, like as soon as you said like you stopped this replay and you were like, how do you feel about that? And I'm like, I feel like it could have been better. But then you said like, you then followed up and said like you're behind, you feels like you need to catch up. And then I like literally looked at it differently as soon as you said that. So like that's like the reason why I like message you in particular, because it just feels like going over some of the things I can't pinpoint.
Yeah. No, that's I think that's relatively common. All right, let's see if
Farming in this mid lane. No, they
totally
call on the
right.
other
Look at that,
side.
10
He
seconds.
wants
All
back
right.
available. Let's
go.
Let's play out the whole fight.
Context of the game.
Lion. Coil. Rabbit, dropped as well.
Poor man.
Eclipse. Supernova. All the ultimates getting used here, but
Okay.
they only found one.
I think listing too many spell names is going to be a problem, but the fact that you wrapped it up with all of the ultimates being used at once, actually, like I was like, okay, this is getting a little too far. But then the fact that you basically are saying this is a list and they were all ultimates, everything big has been thrown out there. I'm okay with that. I would just always be careful of just turning into
Yeah,
listing
that's-
spells. Dota play-by-play, the biggest sin of FPS play-by-play commentary is reading the kill feed on the top right or top left. You know, X kills X, Y trades out for X. You know, so on and so forth. The sin of Dota play-by-play is just vomiting out spell names that are happening.
Ultimate's getting used here, but they've only found one.
They've only found
They'll
one.
disengage from the egg. Now this could be a bit of a window here from Dire. They've got the Omni Slash, but on the front lines are Fu, Cookie. If it needs to get better positioning, Omni Slash Mizu solid taking along with the Roshan now as well. He's got the Sunray Heals, Jokan blinking once again with the Earthspark controlling up Bid One. They'll bring him down. And the rest of SMG, they can't control the pit as In Your Dream stands his ground with a rough shot, kills off Roshan, but they're still hunting on Alacrity and Mizu. They'll kill off Rogi, they'll kill off Arfu, 4 down on SMG. And you just said that is a big fight for the story of this game, and our Galaxy Racer coming out ahead.
Okay, so I've noticed something, okay, so this is something that I learned / noticed in voice acting. It's actual yelling versus acting yelling. So people are uncomfortable with yelling naturally, you know, or monkeys, and that would attract lions or whatever the shit, you know. but it's like people are uncomfortable with yelling. So whenever you do voice acting and you have to do some sort of yelling, what naturally comes out is, I'm actually yelling like this. I'm not really yelling, but I've raised my voice and it kind of feels like I'm yelling, but I'm not really yelling, because you could tell, right? I'm not really putting the emotion into yelling. I'm just kind of like calling that out. And I feel like in some ways you're, correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like in some ways you're uncomfortable with getting like too loud or too putting, it feels almost like you're not.
It's 100%. That's like 100% it. A lot of these games, the issue is that like, still the parents' place, and I'm like literally next room, and like these games are going to like, you know, 1 a.m. sometimes. This game was earlier on, so this is not an excuse for this game, but some of the later ones in the series are definitely. But I have noticed even when it's not, like even if it's a fucking 1 p.m. game, like I've noticed that, like it feels like I know what you mean. I just don't know how to change that, I guess.
Okay, so I think that it's a little bit hard with play-by-play. I know totally what you mean. Like, I'm uncomfortable casting from my apartment very oftentimes because I want neighbors and shit like that. So I think if you are uncomfortable in the situation that you're at with raising your voice too much, I would say just be a little bit more comfortable with scaling down. So let me listen back to this with that in mind. Now that we know
control
that.
The tanking along with the Roshan now as well. He's got the Sunray Heals, Jokan blinking once again with the Earthspark controlling up Bid One. They'll bring him down.
Because I don't think it's a problem here.
They can't control the pit as In Your Dream stands his ground with a rough shot, kills off Roshan, but they're still hunting on Alacrity and Mizu. They'll kill off Rogi, they'll kill off Arfu, 4 down on
Like I feel like here I should be, my tone should be different. Like we're 24 minutes in the game, 5,000 net worth lead. Like I highlight that it's a big part of the game, but I feel like it's my emotions don't reveal it in my voice. I don't know if you see the same thing.
Okay, so let's go over this other thing that I noticed, because
now this could be a bit of a window here from Dire. They've got the Omni Slash, but on the front lines are Fu.
When this happens, right? You say this is an opportunity for Dire. Juggernaut has Omni Slash. It was a good call out, right? There's an opportunity for them. Despite that it's 4 versus 5, the fact that you see it as an opportunity because he has Omni Slash is a good little detail. Right?
Omni Slash Mizu solid taking along with the Roshan now is.
I think so the Roshan taking is like I think there are 2 opportunities here of basically like, oh no, you know, you're looking at this team fight from SMG side, which is totally fine. You always, in some ways, have to pick a side to be able to like call some play-by-play, right? It's an opportunity for them. He throws out the Omni Slash. It ends up on Roshan. That's an oh no moment. So I kind of want to feel that oh no. maybe you don't like aren't able to recognize it like as quick as you want to in that situation, but
as well. He's got the Sunray Heroes, Jokan blinking once again with the O-Spike controlling up mid.
right? Again, you're maybe almost overly focused on the individual things that are happening in this team fight, but I'm still not getting the oh no, even as the Juggernaut's dead, oh no, it's all gone wrong. It's all gone tits up. It's all fucked. You know, I haven't gotten that moment of like this was what could have happened. Oh fuck. You know, and so that is another thing I noticed in that fight.
They can't control the pit as In Your Dream stands his ground with a rough shot, kills off Roshan, but they're still hunting on Alacrity and Mizu. They'll kill off Rogi, they'll kill off Arfu, 4 down on SMG, and you just said that is a big fight for the story of this.
Yeah, it feels with that in mind, I don't necessarily know how to totally fix that, but I feel like probably just being more comfortable scaling down. Like obviously you still have to play up the hype when it comes to the team fights without doing any kind of yelling, and that I feel like the play-by-play was natural, but the falling off of the action, right? These are the cleanup kills that are happening. You're still keeping the kind of fake yelling going, where you could probably just scale it down faster. But yeah, that's not an easy problem to fix by any means, and that's just like what kind of sucks about anytime that you're casting from home. It's just a constant, and any way that you can get yourself into a situation where you are able to be comfortable, but it's, you know, sometimes there's no solutions. You know, when I'm like, the reason I covered the Singapore major and I didn't do any play-by-play because it's the middle of the night and there's no way I feel comfortable doing that, right?
Yeah.
So you just kind of do what you can. You know what the reason why. So I think that's totally fine.
Galaxy Racer coming out ahead.
I don't think a ton of people are going to notice.
The tips coming through onto Arfu.
It still feels like, even though it's like an issue, even not at nighttime though, like, so like I know what you mean in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, like,
once again,
you probably just in general just don't feel comfortable being a loud nuisance when, you know.
Able to get off a nice sunray, make sure
I would say that probably makes you a good person
or
a decent person, that you're not comfortable being loud and obnoxious and to the people who have no idea what's going on the screen. I think that's perfectly fair. So
see that how Radiant feel heading into a team fight with all their ultimates is so completely different than when they don't have those ultis. Polo?
Gotta be careful, Polo.
It's okay at the moment. Kisses should claim the life. Cole dropped on all 3. Now with the BKB, means that the Luna's just freely able to right-click mid. One cookie back to safety is actually going to try and look to turn to bring down Yokan. But you still got to be careful because In Your Dream's in fighting condition and mid one is not. It's going to try and run down to the southern side, but Radiant, they got the Observer Ward at the moment, so they scout out SMG's positioning. Rogi, Cookie, further to the northern side, Alacrity, prime position to be able to close the distance, kill off the Grimstroke. It's a 2 for 2 as Galaxy lose both their supports.
yeah, so this is I think just going to be a continuous trend, so I don't want to hit on it too much. The focus of accurately calling the action of what's happening versus giving me the emotion. So even like that cookie play, right? It was a cute little play. Maybe it doesn't save him, but it was a cute little play. He got back down from the cliff where he was kind of stuck. You know, I want to feel the emotion of that, less so than knowing exactly where the hero is at the moment. You know, I don't need to be able to echolocate them based off of what I'm hearing. I want to be able to feel ups and downs. Like, oh, you know, like, fuck it, if he dies anyway, it's kind of whatever. But even if you like, you know, just like, oh, he actually gets down, you know, like maybe he could do something here. Oh no, he's dead.
Did you find you had any issues with like bringing that emotion into your casting, and like if there is anything particular somehow you were able to do to work on it?
I would say just finding your own personality with the game, right? So what you as a commentator are doing is giving emotion to this game. Like you're the two things I think you do as a play-by-play that are most important is telling a story, and naturally what goes with that is giving emotion to the game, right? You can have all the fancy words that you want to. You can cast as fucking fast as any sort of battle rapper out there. Like those things are all cool and stuff like that. But like ultimately, you're trying to get excitement or humor. Like you think something funny, and it's funny. Your interpretation is going to be different than every other play-by-play caster. But whatever you are feeling about this game, hell, sometimes it's boredom. And you can actually translate that to the audience. You can tell them, like, God, this game's fucking boring. Not necessarily like that per se, but it's like, oh man, they're like, whew, not a whole lot happening in this game. Not a whole lot of kills. You know, like, just recognizing that and putting out that emotion, it's something that the audience is going to appreciate because you're being genuine. So I would say just getting more comfortable, focusing less on the technical side and more on the emotional side. So whatever you're feeling about this game, I want to know that you're feeling it. And maybe that's where the monotone thing that you're talking about, it's less so about the tone of your voice, but the emotions that you're conveying.
Yeah, that's something I took down in my notes when I was looking over. Like, it didn't feel like I was, like it was a weird thing, and I don't know, like, if it sounds weird, but just like laughing at like really random fucking moments in the game where like I just like see that little bit of banter with other casters come into play, where they're just like laughing at not even in particular what they're saying, but just like what's going on screen, and that emotion coming into it kind of just gets rid of that monotone aspect.
Yeah, I mean, like, there, you know, if you, in the process of conveying that emotion, you end up tripping over your own tongue and you go, blah, 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 you know, that still works. That's still that you are still trying to do the right thing, right? If you call the wrong spells, you fuck up the play-by-play because you're trying to convey that emotion. It doesn't matter because you're trying to do the right thing, right? Like you remember that moment where Owen, there was the base race, and Owen quite literally ends the cast. The throne dies, and he literally squeals like a pig. He goes, like. Right? That's not play-by-play. Like, I heard that moment. I'm pretty sure I heard that moment live, and I was like, Owen, what the fuck was that? Like, I thought it was one of the biggest, like, in a way, fuck-ups that I'd ever seen Owen do, right? I was just like, what? That wasn't... But it wasn't that bad, because ultimately you knew what he was trying to do. He was trying to convey emotion, and he was overwhelmed at that point. He literally makes gibberish. He just makes noises. And it's still good, right? It's not great. It could be better, but it's still good because he is telling you how he's feeling about this game.
Okay.
And ultimately that is, in a way, how the viewer is going to feel as well, right? If you convey a story well, then you're making them feel things as well. So, yeah, I think this is just like a normal... growing caster thing, that you're so focused on the technical side and like, am I using the right words? Am I speaking clearly enough? Am I going fast enough? And am I hitting those moments hard enough? That you're so focused on that you're not focusing on the like what are the primary hidden jobs, which is just put some emotion out there. So yeah, I would say that's just like I don't want you to fake it, obviously, but I just want you to I want to feel whatever you're feeling for this game.
Okay.
You know, I think the throwbacks for this are, I want to feel your emotion more, whatever that is. If there's a hype team fight, but you found something funny, hell yeah, tell me it was funny. You know, laugh at something. If you thought something was hype and it ended up not being, you know, and then if I could, whatever. Throw some shade on yourself for that, you know, clown on yourself a little bit. Oh, that was supposed to be big, but it wasn't. Yeah. So whether it's talking about the laning phase and what we expect to see happen, or it's what's going to happen in this next team fight, making sure that your commentary is starting with when the story's actually starting. If commentary was literally just like blah 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 blah, like literally not saying words, blah 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 blah, blah, like I still understand that something happened, you know. With 0 words, I understand purely through fucking that I understand that like a team fight started, you know, and that's gonna get me going in some way. So, contrary to some of what you think, the fundamentals of casting are all there and all very solid. So I think I want you to focus on them less. I want you to focus less on the mechanics and focus more on just conveying whatever you feel in the game.
Thank you very much. I really do appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely. See you, dude.
See you, man. Have a good night.